Well, on National Museum World Museum Day, we visit the National Museum in the capital, a platform for India's extraordinary history. But what we see is decay, both physical and conceptual, and no change at all since last 2 years ago a visit there. Radhika Bodia has more on this.
This dimly lit, ugly gallery is likely to be our introduction to the National Museum. It's the famous Harappa Gallery, its most iconic piece, the 4,500-year-old dancing girl of Mohenjo-daro. So famous, some visitors come just to see her. Why then has it been exhibited in such a nondescript manner, we asked.
क्योंकि ये स्टूडेंट्स के लिए न्यूड फिगर होने के कारण जो है इसको हम अपनी संस्कृति के हिसाब से हम इतने तक ही जितना ये डिस्प्ले है इतने तक ही उचित समझते हैं कि यहीं तक ही ठीक है।
The dancing girl, referred to as a nude figure that needs to be hidden away from the eyes of visiting school children, was a shocking answer given to us 2 years ago by the assistant curator of the gallery. The dancing girl is just a symbol of the decay within the museum, both conceptual and physical. Walk through the museum and you'll see damp walls, cobwebs, fading or poor signage. This gallery has just one sign, Ikshvaku. Nothing else to explain what that could mean. Last time we had to actually hound the authorities to fix the light bulb in several galleries. 2 years later, I'm repeating the same exercise.
Spectacular stone sculptures dating back to the 8th century AD, but appallingly lit as no one's bothered to change the light bulbs which are fused.
The crux of the problem, 60% of the technical posts are vacant, 26 out of 32 senior posts also vacant, including that of the Director General. 5 years ago, a committee was formed to find a professional DG outside the bureaucracy. We were told this would be treated as an urgent task. 2 years later, no DG has been found. The museum is treated as an additional charge given temporarily to bureaucrats.
There are issues of manpower. As I said, yes, there are some problems in the overall exhibition and display in the museum. But it's not something that we are not aware of.
For 5 years now, we've closely tracked the museum, highlighting its absolute neglect and decay. Each time we're told that change is imminent. What's shocking is that the authorities know just exactly how urgent that need for change is. In Delhi, Radhika Bodia for NDTV.
Joining us this morning, Mr. Ram Rahman, photographer and activist. Good morning, sir, and thank you very much for speaking to NDTV. A place that's meant to actually preserve and show a piece of our heritage and history in the most exquisite possible way is doing exactly the contrary.
Yes, it is actually a shame with many of our cultural institutions, which were set up with great ideals right after independence. But I think what has happened with the kind of bureaucratic culture is almost all of these institutions have become completely stymied. And I think the problem with something like the National Museum, which houses great treasures, is precisely that, because it has been run without professional backing. You know, the way people are recruited, as your story has just said about the temporary bureaucrats who man these positions. You cannot run major cultural institutions like this, and certainly not any longer.
Mr. Rahman, would you then say that it's almost an emergency if you look at the way even statues are labeled out there? Would you believe that it should be privatized at this point, in the sense that at least the taking care aspect of the National Museum should be given to private hands, to people who know the subject?
Actually, I have a real problem with this whole notion of privatization, because I think that is also very dangerous. And I think if you look at, other countries, if you look at a country like Mexico, which is, slightly, maybe a little more economically advanced than we are, but Mexico is certainly not a first world country. Mexico has maintained absolutely first-class museums, which are state-run. And I think the state, has a responsibility, and it should do it, and it can do it, I think that basically the entire structure of the system has to change. And I do not think that is very hard to do, but you just need not just a political vision, but also cultural vision to be able to do that. And certainly the state now is not lacking in resources at all.
Right, Mr. Rahman, thank you very much for speaking to us. Mr. Ram Rahman, their photographer and activist, are quite against the idea of privatization, but definitely says the bureaucratic ways need to change for our National Museum to look a lot better.
Do you have the NDTV Profit app? All the markets, all the news and your own homemade, ready-made portfolio available there for you.
We will right now answer what you should sell, what you should buy when markets are down.
Download at ndtvprofit.com/apps. Get the best app from the channel you trust.